The Office of Intelligence and Analysis at DHS is tasked with collecting threat data and sharing it with state and local partners. But the January 6th attack on the Capitol last year showed what many critics say was a failure by that office to warn of that attack and the threat of domestic extremism. Ellen Gilmer is a senior reporter at Bloomberg Government. Ellen, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So historically, what have been the issues with that office? It's the Office of Intelligence and Analysis. Why has it come under so much criticism?
So, right, INA is inside DHS. It's actually part of the intelligence community, but it's not a household name the way like the CIA or the FBI is. So it's kind of struggled to find its footing from the start since it was created. Then it had this series of Trump-era scandals and intelligence failures that really bruised its reputation, and it's been hard to recover from. They've spent the past year trying to kind of steady the ship in INA to make sure it can really operate optimally again.
Tell me about some of those things that bruised its reputation.
Of course, yeah. So one thing that a lot of folks might remember is during the 2020 protests in Portland, Oregon, there was a situation where federal intelligence officials from INA were creating intelligence reports on U.S. journalists who were writing about the protests, which was seen by people inside the department and outside of the department as, you know, really kind of getting on First Amendment rights. These people were just covering the protests, writing about the protests. There was an internal investigation.
There was a whistleblower report.
There was a whistleblower report, an internal investigation, a lot of mudslinging related to that, a lot of people accusing, you know, various officials within the department of wrongdoing and of exerting, you know, political influence, and that was just a real stain on INA's reputation.
So what was the main issue with why they didn't see January 6th coming? What's the root of that?
It's interesting, right? Because a lot of January 6th planning was out in the open on social media. They did see that. They had trouble kind of differentiating between what was simply First Amendment protected speech, people spouting off on Twitter, people saying things they didn't intend to follow through on, versus what was, you know, really open plotting, a threat to the U.S. Capitol, to elected officials. And, you know, they did have some meetings and they shared information, but none of it had the sense of urgency that would have been appropriate for the actual scale of violence that day.
There's a new leader that's been nominated for DHS's Office of Intelligence and Analysis. What do we know about Ken Wainstein?
Ken Wainstein is an alum of the George W. Bush administration. He was in DOJ there. He was deputy to Robert Mueller at the FBI, and he worked in the White House. So he's got, you know, sterling credentials. During the Trump administration, he was in private practice at a law firm and remains there, and he was a very outspoken critic of President Trump. He endorsed Joe Biden in the last election because he saw Trump as, you know, kind of a risk to national security.
Will domestic extremism be his biggest priority?
It's got to be among them. Yeah, I mean, there are so many. The thing about DHS is there are so many things to keep everybody up at night because their job is to protect against all kinds of threats. Domestic extremism is one of the most important issues that INA is working on because INA is really uniquely situated to be looking at those platforms where a lot of this domestic extremism kind of is cultivated. So that's going to be something really important for him.
You said that it's unique. Explain a little bit more about how it's unique within the intelligence community.
Yeah, well, when you think of, you know, the FBI, the CIA, a lot of times you think of an FBI investigation that's focused on a specific threat that they're already tracking. They've got, you know, some body of evidence to merit kind of tracking this person or this group. When you think of foreign intelligence agencies, you think of like spies. INA isn't doing any of that. You know, they are looking at this huge mass of public information that's already out there and trying to pick up trends and threats that are brewing out there in a way that the FBI simply isn't doing because the FBI is very investigation oriented. They're not taking this big broad view. INA is also the part of the federal government that is most kind of interfacing with state and local law enforcement and other, state and local homeland security agencies. So they're the ones trying to make sure everybody is talking to each other.
So what are the chances of the nominee being confirmed, and what's the timeline?
I'd say the chances are high. Ken Wainstein has a hearing this week before the Senate Intelligence Committee. He's got to go through another hearing. He'll have to get voted on by committee, and then he'll go to the floor. So it'll be a matter of months, probably. But the chances are high. He is a Bush alum. He's highly respected. Senator Rob Portman of Ohio, who's a Republican and the top member of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, he has already said he's inclined to support Wainstein, and I think a lot of other Republicans are the same. Wainstein's history of criticizing Trump might turn off some of them, and there might be things that come up during the confirmation process that we just don't know about yet that become issues for senators.
All right, well, we'll watch it. Ellen, thank you so much for being on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future Government Matters interviews.